Administrator for the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and the Food and Drug Commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary. Two guys, just first of all, let's give them we got to give them a round of applause. I do want to start, though. You both co-authored an op-ed in the Journal this week that said working with the industry, the food industry, would be better than using blunt force regulation. Dr. Oz, I think a lot of folks in our audience want to see you use blunt force regulation.
Well, let me offer up that Dr. Makary and I are both surgeons, which means we tend to be impatient, especially when time is being wasted and lives are at risk. The president certainly doesn't have any patience for that, and Secretary Kennedy's been very clear in his desire to have both of us and others, including Jay Bhattacharya, who runs the NIH, laser focused on these issues. But let me share something with the audience. As much as we may malign these companies, and I also apply this to insurance companies, device companies, pharmaceutical companies, many people in these companies went into these businesses because they fundamentally cared about health. But sometimes all of a sudden the dollars and cents confuse them and they start putting profits over people. Part of what Marty and I are doing is reminding industry of why you went into the business. And if that's the case, what can you do working with us nimbly to fix the problems? Because if you don't, you know what the president's going to do. He's coming down hard and we're going to help him. And so the real goal here, and this editorial highlights that, is to make sure that there's room for industry to do the right thing, get out of the way if you're part of industry and don't want to help. But in the end, we're going to get to the place that the American people expect us to be, which is making America healthy again.
You know, Dr. Makary, people out there are getting the message themselves. And here's the irony. I'm watching shares of companies that use a lot of chemicals in their foods, right? Whatever they do to preserve them on the shelf for 4 million years. These stocks are getting hammered, absolutely hammered. So I guess between the administration's approach, the public awareness approach, you know, they should be coming to the table. What are your thoughts on just how quickly we can really get a massive? None of them want to admit that what they've done, which is fine. We do want them to fix it, though. What do you think the timeline is?
Well, it's really quick. When we made this announcement several months ago, the naysayers were saying that we weren't serious. And here you can see over half the entire U.S. food supply, the makers of those products have stepped right up. Pepsi, General Mills, Kraft Heinz, Nestle, that long list that you had. What are we waiting for? Another 10-year randomized controlled trial? We already have a randomized controlled trial. We have parents who are saying that they don't want petroleum-based dyes in their food. They can notice the behavior change when they take it out. So in this administration, we want to get stuff done. And you can win more bees with honey than fire sometimes. The tremendous power of these offices that Dr. Oz and I hold can be used to convene and appeal to the best in people and talk about children not as Republican or Democrat children, as Secretary Kennedy says, but as American children. Right. And we're finding it very productive.
I was reading where you focused on with respect to childhood chronic disease, the 4 drivers, which, by the way, I think have to be drivers that affect adults as well. Poor diet, environmental chemicals, physical activity or lack thereof, and over-medication. We don't have a lot of time left. So, Dr. Oz, I just want to kind of go to the over-medication part because, you know, that for a lot of our audience points straight to the sort of greed over people kind of situation.
Well, it's over medicalization. It's not just medication. You're diagnosing problems that probably should be dealt with the parents, or by going out and playing, or just dealing with issues and teaching kids how to have mental resilience. My wife and I formed the foundation 20 years ago. We've been in the school systems for 20 years watching all 4 of those risk factors mature, grow, and ultimately cause an obesity epidemic that now prevents 3/4 of young men from entering the military. And so this is a crisis that is rolling up towards the older ages. There's a reason we're twice as obese as European counterpart countries. We're 10 times more obese than Japan. We've made it easy to be sick in America. And this president and this Secretary of Health, Bobby Kennedy, they're not going to tolerate it anymore. And Marty and I are here with tip of the spear to make sure that we get industry to work with us, or we'll be coming after them.
Last word to you, Dr. Makary.
Look, we have to do something different. We're throwing good money after bad into a broken healthcare system, and nobody is saying stop. Can we talk about our school lunch programs, not just putting every 6-year-old on Ozempic? Can we talk about SNAP waivers so taxpayer dollars aren't going to sugary drinks and junk food? And this morning we had a meeting talking about the importance of sleep in children and their circadian rhythm. So we're going to keep going and focusing on the root cause of chronic disease, not just the treatments.
The ultimate 1-2 punch, Dr. Oz, Dr. Makary, along with the RFK Jr. What a hell of a team. I feel healthy already. Thank you both very much. See you soon. Hey, folks, I'm going to bring in our board-certified physician, Fox News contributor, Dr. Nicole Saphier. Let's pick up on that conversation. We've had these similar conversations. Oh, I'm sorry. I was afraid to let him start clapping because there's only 30 minutes left in the show. So, poor diet, environmental chemicals, physical activity or lack thereof, and over-medication or over-medicalization, as Dr. Oz put it. We've talked about this a long time. Are you seeing? It feels like this is shifting quickly.
Yeah, so both of those gentlemen are colleagues and friends of mine. Marty Makary is a new father. He has a newborn baby at home. So all of a sudden, when you hear him talking about what are we doing to make sure our kids are healthier, this is hitting now close to home for him. And they're absolutely right. You know, we're talking about longevity, and longevity is a gift, but it also poses a challenge because we want to add more life to our years,
right,
not just years to our life. And as you pointed out, yes, if you go 100 years ago, when the average life expectancy was 40, 50 years old, now we've doubled that, but we're living longer, but we're also living a little unhealthier. So what are we going to do for that? And part of it is looking at the chronic illness that we're dealing with, the fact that we're completely disconnected from society. You just had Jaclita on here, who truly has the answer to longevity. By working at Home Depot, you heard her say that these are my family, this is my community. That's one of the pillars of the Blue Zones, by maintaining that sense of community. So living healthier, making sure we're getting some of these toxins out of our food, which we know the MAHA movement is working on. But also, Charles, one of the big things, and this is why we're talking about it on Fox Business, is the fact that we can't afford our healthcare system. In less than a lifetime, our GDP spending has gone from 5% to 18% in just 50 years. And why is that? Well, sure, we have an aging population, we have chronic illness, but we also have this health care industry, this insurance companies, that was not what it was intended to be.
Right.
It was formed just because of World War II, and now it has blown up into something where you have so many more administrators than you do doctors. In every hospital, 10 administrators to 1 doctor.
Right. And ironically, big government, that's how it is with everywhere. In education, you have more administrators than teachers, right? I mean, everywhere you go, it becomes so bloated, and at the end, whether it's a patient or a student, they don't get what they're supposed to be getting, despite all the money we're spending. I wanted to get your thoughts on the medical side of this, GLP-1s, for instance. So there's something of a miracle drug. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
right? And I read a study where they really take off more fat than muscle. But a big question is there a way to democratize that, because they're pretty expensive?
Yeah, so these GLP-1 agonists, they are game changers when it comes to weight loss, also when it comes to diabetes management. You touched on something, and looking at that chart, while you are losing fat, a lot of people are losing muscle mass, because you can't just take these medications without doing the work behind
Right.
it, eating healthily, working out. They are very unaffordable. There are some risks when it comes to these. Not everybody should be going on these, but I can tell you that not only are they good for losing weight and maintaining your body, your blood sugar, but also we're seeing decreased cardiovascular events, decreased inflammation. We're also starting to question whether this can play a role in dementia and brain health. I do think that we are going to see these for a long time to come. I want to see a lot more studies on the people who are taking them. And as Marty Makary said, our children should not necessarily be on these right now. We need to get down to the basics. Why do we have such an overweight population? We cannot keep running to the quick fixes, because here in the United States, we are all about instant gratification, and we have to put in the work. These are miracle drugs, but there are also some risks with them, and they cannot be the knee-jerk reflex for everyone.
Dr. Saphier, I wish we had more time. It's been too long. You have been on top of this as well as anyone, you know, and
Thanks.
I'm glad you were able to join us today.
Of course, happy to be here with everyone.
Thank you. All right.